Hello, and welcome to Experience of the Soul, a weekly space to help you grow, prosper, and embrace the changes that guide your soul forward. This week, spiritual teacher and author Cynthia Alice Anderson explores how change is not something to fear, but the very language of the soul guiding us through release, renewal, and deeper awareness of who we are becoming. So, take a breath, listen with an open heart, and now, Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello and welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I am the host. I'm also the owner and founder of the channel. And my friends, I'm honored and blessed to bring you the show. And I certainly appreciate your feedback on all the learnings you've had over the last several shows. So it means the world to us when you send us a text message or reach out in some way via email to let us know, that we're supporting your journey. And my friends, thank you also for letting me know that you're enjoying the affirmations and all of that. So it's a real great time to be a part of the channel and a part of the show because we are able to offer more for you that supports your journey. And a big part of that is my producer, who I'm welcoming into the show now, Mr. Sean Kilgore. Yay.
Hey, thanks so much. Hey, friends, welcome into episode 406 of Experience the Soul. Yeah, I agree 100%. Like we posted, an episode and somebody commented on YouTube. So you can reach out to, just know that when you comment on social media or on YouTube, that's coming right to us. Also, always remember, if you're listening to the audio podcast version on most audio podcast platforms, the very first thing you'll see in that show description is send us a text. That comes right to us. You always want to make sure you leave us your name, though, so we can, give you a little shout out on the next episode after we see your text message.
Yes, and I want to mention, if you want us to read your comments on the show, let us know. We'll be happy to do that. I mean, it's fun for us because it lets us know, some kind of real feedback, about what is the specific in your life. That's a lot of fun because it's often something that I hadn't planned on saying. It might be, or Sean, something you're sharing about your journey that really touches somebody. It's not even, the show, but maybe a little side story that comes up kind of organically that people say, that was the one thing that touched me, deeply. So sometimes we're learning too about what really touches your heart. So it helps guide us a little bit too in the show.
Yeah, definitely. We just love to hear back from you. So
Yeah.
Keep those messages, emails, comments on the social media platforms and YouTube. Keep them coming because we love that stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we'll get
Most
back to you. Well,
definitely.
yeah, for sure. So, friends, this week is part release, part remembrance, and part renewal.
Yeah.
So there's a feeling of slowing down a bit and noticing what still belongs with us moving forward. So we begin with Tuesday. In the Jain tradition, they're going to be celebrating Mahavirjanti, which is honoring the birth of Mahavira, who was a great spiritual teacher in their tradition, known for his message of compassion and nonviolence.
Yes, right.
So these are strengths that, of course, are still speaking pretty powerfully to the world that we're living in today.
Yes.
Compassion and nonviolence. So we hold our friends who are in the Jain tradition. We're holding you in our thoughts as you celebrate.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful one.
Yeah. Then it's then it's sundown on Wednesday. Passover begins in the Jewish tradition. So Passover, of course, remembers liberation, resilience, and the sacred work of telling the story of freedom again and again, so it can keep shaping the present and not just the past.
Wow. You're right about that, my friend. You are right.
Come Friday, many Christians will be observing Good Friday. This is a solemn day in the Holy Week that invites reflection on sacrifice, love, and the mystery of staying present even in grief. So on Sunday, that movement then opens up into Easter.
Beautiful.
With its deep theme of resurrection, life finding a way forward even after the darkest night.
Beautifully said. And, this is such an important week. When I was a kid singing in the church choir, every year we did an Easter cantata. And there was one called The Last Week. And it was a time in my journey, that was significant because I started understanding um, Jesus's ministry more, and I understood the idea of sacrifice and the idea that I could be relieved of any of my shortcomings. I'd heard that word in 12-step meetings of my brothers, and I loved the idea of how freeing it was. Um, so this is an important week for all of us. And in my personal journey, I go really deep on this week. So I was hoping you were gonna highlight that. We are of the Christian tradition, and so some of us call this and the time Jesus is born some of the most important weeks in history. We know because we're still talking about it. We know
Right.
because we're still impacted today. So it's very, very important time. Very
Yes.
special for me personally, for my good church memories I still have.
Amen. I hear you on that. I
Yeah.
always loved Good Friday service.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
loved going to Good Friday service, and I love that you're doing a Good Friday service this year. So
Yeah.
it's always a beautiful service.
Well,
Um,
I'm gonna tell you the story right now, Sean. Can I
okay.
just
Yeah,
bust your
yeah, go
flow a
for
little bit?
it.
Because
Yeah, go for it.
I had not thought about this in a long time. So we were on Good Friday. Now this I was about like maybe 9 or 10, okay? In this tiny little church called Red Oak United Methodist. Is still there. Is a different church now, but still there. But anyway, we were at the point in the service about where the pastor said it is finished. And I should mention there was a rainstorm going on outside. And the pastor said, I am not making this up. It is finished. And all the lights went out. And the storm was like going
Wow.
lightning and everything. And we sat there. We thought somebody planned it. No, the power went out
Oh
at
my
that
gosh.
moment. And I mean, like, I am mid 50s, and I'm still remembering that. So we're talking 40 years ago. And I had an experience of the power of that. And so anyway, for me, a Good Friday is super special. And that was one of the reasons. So I felt like I should say a little bit more about it. You like Hollywood could not have planned it better.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, I
wow.
love that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Also on Sunday, then is not only Easter, but is also what is known as the King Ming Festival. This is
Yeah.
sometimes called Tomb Sweeping Day. This is
Yep.
offering a tender ancestral note from the Chinese tradition.
Mhm.
So this is a time to honor those who came before us, to care for their burial places, and remember that
Mm.
love and reverence can be expressed through simple acts of tending.
Ah, yes, beautiful. I
Yeah.
love that idea. Love to
Yeah.
honor our ancestors, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And our just for fun this week is National Handmade Day. This is on Saturday. So
Mhm.
if you happen to glue something crooked or bake something that's lopsided or finally start that project bin in the corner, you are right on schedule for this Saturday's National Handmade Day.
Yeah, that is fun.
Yeah, do some
That's fun.
crafting. Yeah.
Do some crafting, yes.
So, friends, as I send you into episode 406, just something to think about, maybe a little journal prompt for you for the week. But what in your life is asking not just to be changed, but to be lovingly tended,
Uh,
remembered, or renewed? I was
Beautiful.
thinking of that as a journal prompt. I think that's a good,
Yeah,
yeah,
that is a good one.
yeah. What in your life is asking not just to be changed, but to be lovingly tended, remembered, or renewed? And with that, friends, this is episode 406 of of the Soul, Change and the Soul Journey.
Yes. So, my friends, we talk about change often. And, I'm always proud of the fact that we have recorded a brand new show every week, for years now. That said, there are topics that we revisit, and one of them is change. And I wanted to speak more deeply about change because of the time of year we are in. Sean and I have already been talking about Easter week. We've already been talking about, tending or mending or making. Yes, there's always release in there, but there is a deeper awareness this time of year about, the soul journey, the deeper soul journey, and to resurrect, which is what in our tradition, the Christian tradition, we're focused on. We want to not only focus on Jesus's resurrection, but rather uh, our own resurrected self as well. So to resurrect, there must be a letting go. Yes, Sean, as you said so beautifully, attending to aspects of our journey. And so I wanted to talk about the aspect of change as it relates to this time of year and as it relates to our individual soul journey. You have heard me say, probably, if you've listened to the show before, change is the language of the soul. Change is a language of the soul. And by that, I mean change is a part of the soul journey. Change is an aspect of growth and development. Change is a part of our physical journey, our mental journey as we grow and develop. We start in maybe kindergarten or preschool, and then we have kindergarten, grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we eventually graduate, right, from high school. And then some of us choose to do college or even beyond a undergraduate degree. Maybe we want to do an advanced degree or something of that nature. So spiritually, we don't often talk about that there are different levels of consciousness and different levels of conscious awareness. And moving into those different levels of conscious awareness have to do with change. And every time we're ready for a new level, something does have to be either released, tended, known, seen, healed, worked with. A lot of times I call it just working it, that there are aspects of the self that are no longer working as you're being called into this new way of being in the world. So when I say the word change in general, mostly fear comes up for us. We fear change because change means I am going to be moving out of what it is I know. Yeah, change means I leave where I am for something new, right? I leave where I am for something new. I'm moving into a new way of being. So something needs to change. So we usually fear that change because we don't know what's next. So, I mean, one of the biggest fears is fear of the unknown. What's next? How do I manage through this? And, I myself have just been through a change because I recently moved, and I've talked about it on the show a couple times. There was not a lot of fear, but some fear and trepidation about, okay, what will this new place be like? Will I meet the right people? Will I move into the right communities to help support my journey? So if you are fearing change, part of me wants to say that's right on time. Because if fear is coming up and you're experiencing this sense that change needs to happen, that's telling you that you are ready, because fear is a part of the curriculum of moving into something new. So change is the language of the soul. Change moves you, right, from where you are to where you want to be. So change helps you get unstuck, really. And change is usually guided by what Mary Manning Morrissey called divine discontent. I know if you're listening to the show that, in fact, you've been on the spiritual journey a long, long time. You've been in church, you've meditated, you've probably taken classes and workshops where you've done personal development. Maybe you've done breath work or other, more intensive spiritual techniques. You've probably used sage or incense or sweetgrass. You've probably meditated outside by a river or a stream. And there's more to the spiritual journey than just going to church on Sunday for an hour, right? So change for you, my listener, our listener, is not new. But what I want to remind you of is that as your journey grows and develops, you are going to be called into further change, but sometimes the change is more subtle than the previous changes. And I wanted to support you in that because sometimes it's like the change that's being asked for is like a single thought that you're ready to release. Yeah, sometimes it's a single thought you're ready to release. I was just meeting with somebody who was telling me that one of their key aspects of their journey is getting brand new thoughts in. They're listening to this show, they're listening to Abraham Hicks, they're doing guided visualization and meditations because they've realized their old way of thinking was worn out and not doing them any good. So they're putting in brand new thoughts. Well, these brand new thoughts are causing a divine discontent and a need to change, meaning moving out of the old way of being. So, even if you fear change, I want you to remember that change helps move you. It gets you unstuck, most definitely, and that the change might be very, very subtle if you've been on this journey a while. And, I like to describe it as, when we're new on the journey and we learn that we are co-creators, powerful co-creators, we begin doing work and it seems like a big change happens. And I relate that to kind of a construction site. You see one of those big backhoes moving large, bits of dirt over here and over there. That's kind of what it feels like. Like you're making a change and then all of a sudden, whoa, there's new energy and it's big and everybody notices it. Well, as you're on the journey for a while, that change shifts from being so big and it's more like using a shovel. It's not using a backhoe, it's more like using a shovel. And then as you deepen, it's more like using like a little paintbrush or toothbrush in a, what do you call that? Archaeological dig, where you're really, it's very minute. And I want to just affirm for you that any change that is moving you towards conscious awareness of your connection with God and living from soul is a good and holy change. Change is a necessary for spiritual growth, for development, and for increased connection and awareness with God. It is absolutely, my friend, a requirement. I'm sure at some point in your journey you said, I am ready to change. I want to live a God-centered life. I want to experience the good God has for me. And if you said that, you are the one that started this path forward. And I'm saying that to say you are not a victim to change. That change is an important aspect of the evolving soul. And that you called it forth because as a soul, you want to live an awakened, enlightened life. This is very, very exciting for you. And it excites me to know that you're listening to the show right now because I know you're going to start applying some of the things I'm talking about. And that instead of fearing change and resisting change, you're going to move into not only embracing it as it comes forward, but you might look for ways to initiate change in your spiritual journey. You're going to look for new experiences that broaden your horizon. You're going to look to connect with people who maybe are a little bit elevated for you. It might be a little bit of a challenge for you. And you're going to do that because when you're around this higher consciousness, when you are around these souls that are on purpose, that are living a more expanded awareness, this is going to inspire you. It's going to inspire you to new thoughts, to maybe some new spiritual practices. So I hope you will consider this in this very special week we're in, because this week is about transformation. It is about release of the old, and it is also about repentance. It is about release. And I love, Sean, your word about tending. I love that there might be areas of the soul, the spiritual journey that you're on that need your tending. It might be in the very physical world in which you live. Uh, I had a friend, that was so spiritual all the time, she couldn't do anything in the world. And I said, honey, you've gotten so spiritual, you're no earthly good. You've got to come down here with the rest of us. You've got to live here. So even though we source in God, our lives are here on planet Earth. So there is a balance, to this spiritual journey. So the change most likely is from the spiritual realm during this time, but I would not discount other change that's being asked of you. So often we don't realize that our actions are simply manifestations of our spiritual dimension in which we live, the spiritual dimension in which we live. In other words, the thoughts we hold, the things we believe about ourselves and about God, that these things are what are causing the actions later. So it's a little bit of a cause and effect situation. And so what happens a lot in our world is that we keep trying to change the outer, but it is the inner that must change first. This is what will help you make the next right steps in the outer. So I want you to remember, change is the language of the soul. Change is an important part of your development. Change is needed for your soul's evolvement. That change moves you from where you are to where you want to be. It helps you get unstuck. Yeah, it helps you get unstuck. And that your change might be subtle, it might be big, but that all change that is leading you forward on the spiritual journey to expand your awareness of God and to increase that connection, that type of change is welcomed and holy. And my hope is you'll start to, again, not only embrace it, but even initiate change at the level of the soul. What we know, my friend, is that change is the one constant in life. None of us will stay the same, even if we try. We cannot stay the same. We are meant to grow. We are meant to prosper. We are meant to evolve. And to do that, we have to stop, take stock in where we are. And there is a requirement, my friends, to deal with change on life's terms. We see people all the time trying to change their bodies to stay young, even though their bodies are aging. And we see people all the time. And by that, I mean in false ways of trying to keep the body young. And I can tell you one of the key ways to keep the body young is to meditate. I know more people who meditate and do deep spiritual work in their 90s that are the most vibrant people I've ever met. And it's because their spiritual and soul journey is number one in their life. That's what they tell me. Sean, I know you're going to begin to do some interviews of some of our members, at Unity of Daytona Beach. It's going to be a lot of fun to see. Yeah. And yeah, I think we'll probably end up hearing stories about, the change these souls went through and how their spiritual journey, is what guided them through.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, my friends, think about it, that change is a part of the curriculum. Fear of change is also a part of the curriculum, but the courage to change is what makes you this kind of spiritual warrior, this ability to go through and to move to the other side. That even though you see the fear, even though you might even feel the fear, that you still move towards change because you'd rather change and grow and evolve than to stay where you are. Now, I had a friend once say, well, it's your choice. You can do it this lifetime or next lifetime. And I was like, oh, I don't like the sound of that. I want to do as much growth as I can this lifetime. So change, luckily, is a part of life. And you will kind of be like tapped on the shoulder when it's time to change. You're going to know because, as I mentioned earlier, that divine discontent is going to come in and you're going to begin to question, is this kind of not working for me anymore? Is there some new way I'm getting called to be? Is there a new way I'm asking to be walking in the world? Is there a new way to carry myself? Is there a new way to think about things? I've had an interesting aspect of my journey recently, and I haven't really talked about it at all. It's not a major deal, but it was a subtle change in the way I thought about certain things in history. And I've watched a couple different movies about historic events that I wasn't very schooled on. And it's really caused me to pause and investigate my thinking. And because I've been on the spiritual journey so long, I'm not as resistant to change in my thinking as I used to be. I used to be a little more resistant, almost cynical. And I still need a moment to shift, but I'm not as there's not a wall, of resistance that comes up. So this year, as I'm moving through my own Easter process, I am really asking, if there's anything in the way of my God connection, I am willing to release it and let it go. If there's anything in the way, I am willing to release it and let it go. I'm also asking if there are any old attitudes that are keeping me stuck in a couple of areas of my life. There's a project I've been working on for a long time, and I have some new movement around it, and I'm thrilled about it. And so I'm wanting to keep that momentum, and I'm just wanting to make sure I'm not getting in my own way of moving forward on this project. And I know this project is God guided. I know it's important for my individual journey, and I think it will bless people. So I know it's an aspect of my purpose, but I've had a lot of stop starts, and I'm just wanting to have a big flow in my life for this. So, I'm really being mindful this week, and we'll be doing some journaling. I'll be doing some meditation times of seeking guidance around some of these areas of my life. And so I guess lastly today, friends, that's what I want to be thinking about is there is there some way for me personally to be thinking, is there some new practice I need to bring in? Is there some new way I need to think about this, and just ask for God to bring it to me, to bring it to my awareness? So I'm not going to go searching on the internet for everything. I'm not going to Google everything I need to know. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait and let Spirit bring to me whatever is mine to know. I'm going to wait for Spirit to illumine my process and journey and show me what is next. I'm going to trust divine guidance to work in and through my life to bring messages. It might be through people. It might be, oh gosh, one time I saw a message on a road sign, believe it or not. It said something like, go higher. And I'm like, yes, yes. So be on the lookout, because Spirit really does work with us in quiet ways. The scriptures say to listen for the still small voice. And so as you're doing this work in consciousness, as you're preparing for next steps and moving through change, I want to really encourage you to listen. My friend used to say, listen with really big ears. In other words, listen from the level of the soul at what you're hearing, and see if you're being guided on a more subtle level for what's yours to do in these next days and this coming week. My hope for all of us is that we learn to live a more guided, connected, and enlightened life. I have seen recently people move through really, really difficult situations. I just recently spoke with someone who had a very, very tough past, and that his God connection has really brought him into a brand new state of awareness. And my friends, I want that for all of us. So As we grow and develop, remember that the change may be subtle, but it's no less important than when you are making really big changes, because one small change will change everything. My friends, one small change will change everything. So look deeply at your thoughts, look deeply at your journey, be willing to ask the harder question, and be willing to move into change, knowing that your change is guided, knowing that your change is a part of the curriculum for you to grow and develop, and that to move into these next steps, you have great courage. So you can feel good about the fact that I am wanting to grow, I am willing to grow, I want to move on this spiritual journey, I want to grow and develop as a soul. And you can feel good about that. You can be proud of that and embrace that. And even at times, initiate those next steps to move you into increased change and higher awareness of who God is in you and all around you. So, my friends, this is my hope for you, that you move into change, not resistant, but embracing it and knowing it is by divine appointment that as the old is worn out, the new will be made available to you. Remember that you are supported in this, you are guided in this, and we are lifting you we are lifting you in prayer, my friends, as you do this work. I will be honored to hear how the change is working, moving in your life and journey, and know we are honored to be a part of your spiritual journey. So I look forward to seeing you next week, and blessings on the journey.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Experience of the Soul with Cynthia Alice Anderson. If this message resonated with you, we invite you to share it with someone who might need it today. This show is made possible by listeners like you, and we're grateful for the community that helps keep these conversations available to all. You can learn more or contribute to the show at cynthiaaliceanderson.com/donate. Produced by Kilgore Creative and a production of the Soulworks Group Incorporated. Until next time, take good care.